Welcome back to the Red Apple Auctions blog. Today we're going to be talking about Seth Godin. I like Seth Godin. A few years ago, I haven't read any books recently. I've been too absorbed with other things. But years ago, I remember reading Permission Marketing, and I think there was a book before that. I like Seth in general. However, when it comes to the subject of auctions, I seem to disagree with him more than I agree with him. So here's what I'm going to do for the second time in my career here. I'm going to talk about Seth Godin and auctions. Now, the first time I talked about Seth Godin was way back in 2012. And at that time, I had stumbled across a blog post that he wrote in '08, recession time, 2008. And he said that in this article, he had just gotten back from the Robin Hood Foundation Gala, which is this enormous gala in New York. I don't know if it's still around, but at the time, it was just huge, like, I don't know, $40 million, enormous amounts of money was raised. And he, I would assume, goes to other similar types of events as the Robin Hood Foundation. I doubt I'm going to find him at some little, school tiny auction somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong. But he had gone to this and he'd made some observations. One observation was, you really need to get people in the audience who can afford to overpay for items. I totally agree with that. That's called audience development. We want to work on how to do that. Yes. But what I disagreed with him about was he said that an auction fundraiser never really leads to a wildly successful auction because the story that's told is just too small. And so he suggests that the whole concept of an auction is this lure of a deal, and that charities start to play upon this, and they're selling the concept of bargains instead of selling the concept of philanthropy. So in turn, guests become shoppers looking for this cheap vacation instead of just giving to the cause. And at that time in 2012, I disagreed. And I said, that's just not what I'm seeing at my auction. So what I did is I went back to 2008 data because I was curious. What he was saying is true of silent auctions, but it's not true of live auctions. So I went back to my 2008 data. And at that point in time, I'd only been in business like 3 years. I'm a lot better now as an auctioneer than I was in 2008. But even so, in the time frame that he was kind of writing that article, I think it was August, September, sometime in there, I pulled my data from those 2 months. And as I recall, there were 12 auctions that had not live auctions. And 9 of those were over value in the live auction, meaning they outperformed their value. So if we had the $2,000 vacation, it was selling for more than $2,000. Not a cheap vacation. People were overpaying for their vacation. They were giving. They were being philanthropic. Okay, so that was the case that I made there. I'll put a link to that below. It's a short article. You can read that. That was my first point. But now, last month, he wrote another article. And in this case, he's still thinking about these auctions and how he perceives them as they're just not philanthropic and what can be done in order to make them more so. And so he has created or partnered with, I can't remember what I heard, but partnered with a company, and they are doing this platform whereby it's online. But every bid that you make as you try to be the winning bidder is actually a donation. Okay, so if you have a $100 item and the first bid is $30, that person is paying $30. The next bid is $40. That person is paying $40. Right now, the $40 winner is the winner, but we're not done with the auction yet. By the time the auction closes, the last person to bid wins the item, but everybody on the list is paid. Now, first off, this is something that's already in practice in silent auctions. It's not my type of a favorite auction, but I have written about it before. I didn't know what to call them, so I just called them hotel auctions, because oftentimes you see this concept used in hotel lobbies where they'll be raising money, usually for children's hospitals is what I see, but it could be other ones too, and I'll link to that article as well. But beyond that, this is a technique, Seth's concept is a technique that we're already using in auctions. And, well, I think that before we go there, why don't we talk about what has been done thus far with his site? Let's go to online. So here we are on Seth's site. His blog post is titled Unstable Equilibrium. We're testing out a brand new way to host a charity auction. I'm hoping you can check it out and even bid to support Build On. Build On is the nonprofit where the money's going. He talks a little bit about how he perceives auctions and unstable equilibrium and so forth, but what I want to jump down to is this part. The platform that he's built is called goodbids.org. He's worked on this with a few friends, and he's now trying to test it out in the real world. So Our goal is to reimagine the charity auction. Most of the time, bidders in these auctions are looking for a bargain, which is out of sync with what the charity wants. The end result is often lackluster. Now remember, silent auctions, you will have people that are more looking for a bargain. In live auctions, that's just not the case. I mean, there might be some looking for a bargain, but the reality is that in a live auction, they just don't get it, right? Because there's other people who understand the concept of philanthropy. So let's continue down. In good bids, his system, every bid is also a donation. That means that the winner takes home a great prize and all the other bidders get the satisfaction of knowing they made a contribution to a charity, etc., etc. The unstable part is that in a regular auction, items being auctioned off will almost always go for a price much lower than they're worth. Let's go ahead and go through. Oh, and he's offering a prize. So if you guess what the closest to guessing the final bidding wins a mug and some swag, it looks like. And then I do know that on this page, they talk about how every third bid, where did it go? I saw it earlier. Every third bid, the fourth bid was free. So here's his first. He's got two things that he's selling. The first package is the Trek auction. You get to go to Senegal on a trip to help build a school. Very philanthropic focused. The value of that experience is $45,000. In total, it raised $1,760. The winning bid was $200. $200. But all those bids underneath the $200, remember, were also counted. So they raised $1,760. That's not it. That's a flop, 100%. Let's go over, though, to the watch. What happened with the Apple Watch? Value about $800. Oh, we're making progress. Look at this. $800. Roughly, raised almost $2,600, 2,580. Last winning bid, the winning bid was $230. Okay, now this is an online platform, and there's probably a certain type of reader that Seth Godin has, which is, these people don't have any interest in the nonprofit, which is not exactly who's seated in your auction. I think if anything, he's going to try and make a case, and certainly I would if I was defending this, about online auctions versus true charity auctions. But I wanted to see. Okay, so the last bid was $230. Value was $800, which is 29% of value. But that's not really what they raised. What they raised was $2,580. Better. 323,000 or 323% of value. Much better, especially for an online auction. So now you understand the concept, but the reality is that this is not new. We do this in our auctions. I'm looking over here on the right-hand side. He's talking about this was an unsatisfying experience. He's talking about there was the auction would be open for X hours, then change the rules to a 1-hour expiry. Regardless of email communicating that fact, no time was allowed for my schedule. And then Jasper says, oh, sorry, we closed the auction a few seconds early, had some hiccups, so we'll be opening it up another hour to give everyone a chance to bid. All right, well, first off, hey, Jasper, there's something called extended bidding that the online platforms use, many of them, not all. That's what you'll want to have in your new platform that you're building, extended bidding. I have a blog post on that will tell you all about it. This also just reminds me a little bit, there are a lot of companies already working in the auction software market for fundraising auctions, and there's a whole separate industry that does commercial auction software. Now, in the nonprofit auction software, about 40 companies, I have a blog post, I list all of them that I'm aware of. One of the origin stories of a few of those firms began with, I went to an auction. I didn't like how disorganized checkout was, so I went and built some software myself to fix the problem of my wife's auction. Usually that's how it is. And I think it's kind of funny because, number one, Google software to help at a fundraising auction because stuff will come up. It's already out there. The second thing is that it's possible that the committee knew about the software, But committees in general have a very hard time spending money. They don't want to spend money on anything because they're fearful it will take away from making money. So it very well could have just been a mind shift. Like any one of those people who have that kind of origin story could have said to their spouse or whomever, the organizers helping with the auction, and said, hey, did you guys ever think about maybe there's some software out there? I just Googled and there's some software. And the response could have been, yeah, but it was $1,000 and we didn't want to pay for it. We just, it seemed kind of like a lot. And then just buy the software for them. That would have solved the problem instead of like creating a company to address the same problem. But that's neither hide nor there. Let's get back to it. I'm reading through this, Jasper. I'm thinking the tool that you're looking for here is extended bidding, and you communicate that to your bidders. It makes it a lot easier. But let's talk now a little bit about this concept that Seth is initiating and how we're using it in our live auctions right now. So in a nutshell, Seth's concept, every bid becomes a donation. And I'm saying, hey, this is already being done. It's being done in our hotel auctions, but also in our events. We're playing a game called Last Hero. That's what I call it. Some people call it Last Man Standing. I'm sure that there's other names as well. But Last Hero, and we play this as the last level of our fund-a-need, or our appeal, or our paddle raise, whatever you call it in your organization. Now, I got to give credit where credit's due. To my knowledge, this came from Chad Carvey of the Principal Auctioneer out in West Coast. I think it's California. Here's what we do. When we get down to our final level in the fund-a-need. Now, this can be a standalone game as well, but usually it's part of the fund-a-need. Get down to the final level. Let's pretend our final level is $50. So we throw some rules up on the screen and I say, oh, we got a deal for you. Friends, we're going to play a game called Last Hero. Whoever is the winner of Last Hero wins this. And what is this? This might be a trip. It might be a dinner. It might be an Apple Watch. It might be a trip to Senegal. Don't sell a trip to Senegal. No. Not as this game anyway. So we bring that in and we say, here's how the game is played. We go through the rules. Now we have several rules, but I think one of the most important rules is to make sure that people understand that every time they raise their hand, they have made another donation. So if they raise their hand 3 times at $50, they have just made a $150 donation. Thank you very much. Okay. Now this can go on for a while. $50, some people might have in mind, oh shoot, I'm going to give up to $500 and they've got a few bids in them. So what we do, because we've got other things to accomplish that night, is we increase the bidding. So we'll take 50, 50, 50, 50, and that might go on for 12, 15, 20 people. And then we increase it. Folks, we got other things to do here. From now on, when you raise your hand, it's a $100 donation, not $50. We might take those for 15 times, and then we increase it to $200 and then $300 or high. It can go up. I've gone up to $1,000 every time somebody raises their hand. They're making another $1,000 contribution. And I can assure you that, yes, you raise considerably more than the item is worth. That $25.80 that they raised for the Apple Watch, we'd raise a lot more than that, using that as a prize in Last Hero in our fund-a-need or appeal or raise the paddle, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So that's again, Seth's taking this concept and he's trying to move it into the online platform. I think, there's going to be a market for that. Not all auctions are going to go that way. And again, it comes down, there's a lot of psychology in these auctions and the type of people they attract, and you got to understand fundraising really well. And, I think my advice would be that the team there at Good Bids actually spend some time talking to some auctioneers, pay some auctioneers, sit them in a room and talk to them about how these things work, because you'll save yourself some trouble. If you'd like to talk more about your auction, I would be honored to do so. You can set up a meeting with me at redappleauctions.com. There's a link to my calendar on the contact page. If you got value out of this video, I certainly appreciate anyone who subscribes, likes, and shares as well. I'm Sherry with Red Apple Auctions. Good luck to you in your next gala auction. Bye.